Chapter 12, The Multiplying Menagerie. The morning sun had barely peeked over the horizon when Paige was jolted awake by an insistent tapping at her window. Bleary-eyed, she stumbled out of bed to investigate, only to find a small, iridescent creature that looked like a cross between a rabbit and a hummingbird hovering outside. "Elliot," she groaned, recognizing the magical signature of her boyfriend's creations. She opened the window, allowing the creature to zip inside, leaving a trail of sparkles in its wake. No sooner had she closed the window than her phone buzzed with a text from Elliot. "Surprise! Meet Sparkle, your new magical pet. Don't worry, she's house-trained. I think." Paige couldn't help but smile as she watched Sparkle explore her apartment, chirping melodiously and occasionally teleporting short distances in puffs of glitter. The creature's fur shimmered with every color of the rainbow, changing hues as it moved, and its long ears twitched attentively at every sound. "Well, Sparkle," she said, reaching out to pet the creature's soft fur, "I suppose we'd better get you checked out by a vet, just to be safe." As if understanding, Sparkle nuzzled Paige's hand affectionately. However, when Paige's fingers brushed against a particularly sparkly patch of fur, there was a sudden pop, and to her horror, Sparkle split into two identical creatures. "Oh no," Paige muttered, quickly withdrawing her hand. But it was too late. The two Sparkles, delighted with this new development, began zooming around the room, touching everything they could reach and multiplying with each contact. Within minutes, Paige's orderly apartment was overrun with a dozen chirping, teleporting, glitter-shedding Sparkles. Furniture was upended, books were scattered, and a fine layer of magical sparkles covered every surface. One Sparkle had managed to open her closet and was now wearing one of her scarves like a cape, zooming around dramatically. Another had discovered her potted plants and was attempting to nest in them, turning the leaves various shades of purple and blue in the process. In a panic, Paige called Elliot. "Your house-trained pet is replicating itself all over my apartment," she exclaimed as soon as he picked up. "What? Oh no. I must have mixed up the stabilizing potion." Elliot's voice came through, a mix of concern and poorly concealed amusement. "Don't worry, I'll be right there." While waiting for Elliot, Paige attempted to contain the situation. She tried using some of the simple magic Elliot had been teaching her, attempting to create barriers or catch the sparkles in magical bubbles. However, her novice spells were no match for the creature's replicating abilities and teleportation skills. By the time Elliot arrived, the situation had escalated. Paige's apartment now housed at least 30 Sparkles, all chirping in a cacophonous chorus and leaving trails of glitter wherever they went. The ceiling fan had become a merry-go-round for a group of particularly adventurous Sparkles, while others were engaged in what appeared to be a game of magical tag, teleporting from one piece of furniture to another. "I'm so sorry," Elliot said as he surveyed the chaos, trying and failing to suppress a grin. "I was trying to create the perfect pet for you, something magical but low maintenance." Paige, covered in glitter and looking frazzled, couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of the situation. "Well, you certainly achieved the magical part. Low maintenance? Not so much." Elliot joined in her laughter, and soon they were both giggling uncontrollably, surrounded by the whirlwind of magical creatures they'd inadvertently created. It was moments like these, Paige realized, that made their relationship so special, the ability to find joy and humor even in the midst of chaos. Together, they attempted to round up the Sparkles, but every time they thought they had them all, they'd find another hiding behind a curtain or inside a lampshade. Elliot tried a few spells to contain them, but the creatures seemed to have developed a resistance to his magic, probably due to being his own creation. "Okay," Elliot said after their third failed attempt, running a hand through his hair and leaving a streak of glitter, "We need a new plan. These little guys are smarter than I anticipated." Paige nodded, trying to brush some of the Sparkles off her pajamas. "And more numerous. I swear there are more of them now than there were 5 minutes ago." As if to prove her point, two Sparkles collided midair, resulting in a pop, and suddenly there were 4 where there had been 2. "I know." Elliot exclaimed, his eyes lighting up with that familiar spark of an idea. Let's take them to Theo's veterinary clinic. He's used to dealing with unusual cases, and he's got experience with some of my less successful creations. Paige raised an eyebrow. Less successful than these, she asked, gesturing to the sparkle currently attempting to redecorate her bookshelf by color-coding the book spines with its touch. Elliot chuckled sheepishly. Let's just say Theo's seen his fair share of magical mishaps. Come on, help me round them up. With a wave of his wand, which Paige was pretty sure had been a wooden spoon from her kitchen moments before, Elliot conjured a large, magically expandable pet carrier. It looked like a normal cat carrier from the outside, but as they began to usher sparkles into it, Paige could see that the interior expanded to comfortably accommodate all of them. The process of getting all the sparkles into the carrier was nothing short of comical. Paige found herself crawling under furniture, climbing on chairs, and even attempting to lure the creatures with treats, which Elliot magically created, much to the sparkles' delight. Elliot, meanwhile, was engaged in what looked like an elaborate dance, spinning and leaping as he tried to catch the more elusive sparkles in magical nets. Finally, after what felt like hours but was probably only about 45 minutes, they managed to corral all the visible sparkles into the carrier. The container emitted a chorus of melodious chirps and occasional pops as new sparkles were inevitably created inside. Ready? Elliot asked, hefting the carrier, which despite its magical properties, still seemed to weigh a ton. Paige looked down at herself, still in her pajamas and covered in a layer of magical glitter. Can I at least change first? Elliot grinned. And risk letting any stragglers escape? Besides, you look adorable. The glitter really brings out your eyes. Rolling said eyes, Paige grabbed her keys and followed Elliot out the door, leaving a trail of sparkles in their wake. The walk to Theo's clinic was an adventure in itself. People on the street stopped and stared at the odd couple, Paige in her glitter-covered pajamas, Elliot struggling with a carrier that seemed to be moving of its own accord and emitting a symphony of chirps and pops. A few of the town's children began to follow them, delighted by the occasional puff of glitter that escaped the carrier's air holes. Theo Graham, the town's veterinarian, was just opening up his clinic when Paige and Elliot arrived. His eyebrows shot up as he took in the sight before him. Well, Theo said, a bemused smile playing on his lips. What have we here? Another one of your creations, Elliot? A magical pet emergency, Elliot explained sheepishly. Meet Sparkle, and Sparkle, and Sparkle, and... Theo, to his credit, took the situation in stride. After all, being the veterinarian in a town where one of the residents was a wizard prone to creating magical creatures meant he'd seen his fair share of unusual cases. All right, bring them in. Let's see what we're dealing with. As soon as they opened the carrier in the examination room, sparkles burst forth in a cloud of glitter and fur. They zoomed around the room, multiplying as they touched various surfaces, much to Theo's amazement and Paige's dismay. Fascinating, Theo murmured, watching as one sparkle split into two before his eyes. Some kind of magical mitosis, perhaps? Elliot, what exactly were you aiming for when you created these little ones? As Elliot launched into an explanation of magical genetics and potion mixing, Paige found herself chasing sparkles around the room, trying to prevent them from touching anything and multiplying further. She climbed on examination tables, dove under chairs, and at one point found herself tangled in a stethoscope as she tried to catch a particularly elusive sparkle. A little help here, she called out, balancing precariously on a chair as she reached for a sparkle perched on top of a cabinet. Elliot and Theo snapped into action, and soon the clinic was a scene of controlled chaos as the three of them attempted to wrangle the ever-multiplying creatures. Theo, armed with a butterfly net, was swooping and diving with surprising agility. Elliot was attempting to create magical barriers, though the sparkles seemed to treat these more like fun obstacles than actual impediments. We need to find a way to stop them from replicating, Theo said, ducking as a sparkle zoomed over his head. Elliot, is there a counterspell or something we can try? Elliot's face lit up with sudden inspiration. Of course. While the two men worked, Paige kept Sparkle entertained and contained with a series of small levitation spells she'd been practicing. She found that Sparkle was an eager audience, chirping encouragement as Paige made various small objects float and dance in the air. Finally, Theo and Elliot emerged from their makeshift magical laboratory, looking tired but satisfied. They had created a tiny, glowing collar for Sparkle, which would prevent uncontrolled replication while still allowing the creature to use its other magical abilities. As they prepared to leave, Sparkle now wearing its new accessory and nestled contentedly in a pet carrier that Theo had enchanted to be teleportation-proof, Theo pulled Paige aside. "You know," he said with a knowing smile, "I've known Elliot for years, and I've never seen him as happy as he is with you. You two make a great team." Paige felt a warm glow in her chest at Theo's words. She looked over at Elliot, who was cooing at Sparkle and promising her all sorts of magical toys, and felt a surge of affection. "Thanks, Theo," she said. "We're still figuring things out, but I think we're getting there." As they walked home, Sparkle nestled contentedly in its carrier. Paige couldn't help but reflect on the morning's adventure. "You know," she said to Elliot, "a few months ago, something like this would have sent me into a panic. But now, I kind of enjoyed it. The chaos, the problem-solving, working together." Elliot squeezed her hand, his eyes twinkling. "Does this mean you're ready for more magical pets?" "Because I have some ideas for a fire-breathing goldfish." Paige laughed, shaking her head. "Let's stick with Sparkle for now. But I am ready for more adventures with you, magical or otherwise." As they reached Paige's apartment, they found that the magical cleanup spell Elliot had cast before they left had worked wonders. The place was spotless, with only a faint, pleasant shimmer in the air to suggest anything out of the ordinary had occurred. "So," Elliot said as they settled on the couch, Sparkle exploring her new home, "what's next on our magical agenda?" "We still have that fundraiser to plan." Paige's eyes lit up. "Actually, I've been thinking about that. What if we incorporate some of what happened today? Not the uncontrolled replication, obviously, but the idea of magical creatures? We could create a sort of enchanted petting zoo section." As they brainstormed ideas, their excitement building, Paige marveled at how much her life had changed. The orderly, predictable existence she had once clung to now seemed pale in comparison to the vibrant, magical life she shared with Elliot. Sure, there were still challenges. Magical mishaps were an almost daily occurrence, and balancing her need for structure with Elliot's spontaneity was an ongoing process. But as she watched Sparkle curl up for a nap, occasionally emitting tiny puffs of glitter with each snore, Paige knew she wouldn't have it any other way. This was her life now, a beautiful blend of the ordinary and the extraordinary, of books and spells, of careful planning and wonderful surprises. And with Elliot by her side, every day promised to be an adventure. As the afternoon sun streamed through the window, casting rainbow reflections off Sparkle's iridescent fur, Paige and Elliot continued to plan their magical fundraiser, their voices filled with laughter and shared excitement. The future stretched out before them, full of possibilities, and Paige couldn't wait to see what magic it would bring. "You know," Elliot said, a thoughtful look on his face, "today made me realize something." "What's that?" Paige asked, curious. "That even when things go completely off the rails, as long as we're together, we can handle anything. You were amazing today, Paige. The way you took charge, how quickly you're learning magic. I'm in awe of you." Paige felt her cheeks warm at the compliment. "I had a good teacher," she said softly. "And a great partner." They broke apart, laughing, as Sparkle's glitter shower settled around them. Paige's eyes met Elliot's, and she was about to speak when her phone buzzed insistently. It was a message from the library board about the upcoming fundraiser. "Oh no," Paige groaned, scanning the message. "The board wants to meet tomorrow to discuss our plans. They're concerned about the unconventional elements we've proposed." Elliot's brow furrowed. "That doesn't sound good. What are we going to do?" Paige took a deep breath, her mind already racing with ideas. I guess we'll have to convince them that a little magic is exactly what this fundraiser needs. Are you ready for our biggest challenge yet?